Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good job, buddy.
Man, that was a tough course, man. The weather too. Yeah, the weather was crazy. And you missed some good parts too. And the weather. You missed this.
Thanks for joining. We kind of just wanted to get together on a little recap here. As some of you know, I ran 100 miles recently, about 2 weeks ago. So a big milestone for me. The reason why I decided to run 100 miles was I turned 40, and that was kind of just one of the goals that I had in my life, kind of bucket list goals. I've been running a lot of trails lately, found a love for the trails, so I think it just went hand in hand. And, you know, they say that the 100 miles is kind of the benchmark of where you really learn stuff about yourself and where you learn to just push yourself. So in a short nutshell, that's why I decided to run 100 miles. So I'm here with Ben, who was one of my pacers. And then I'm here with Justin. I don't know what that noise was, but
that was a Leverkusen is just got scored.
Oh, nice. Cool. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. I will just touch on that. I'll just set the stage. It was pretty interesting from the beginning. So I was actually kind of training through an injury. So I was training through an injury just leading up, like no excuses, but that kind of added a little wrinkle in it. So 5 weeks before, I started to have some hamstring pain, some glute pain. So I already committed to it. I was so far along that I just decided to push it along. So that was interesting. A little dynamic.
How bad was it actually? Because you were telling me that it wasn't bad, but
yeah. So it was like the first week that it happened, I felt it, and because I went to go do an 800-meter workout, kind of Yasso's at your track, the college that you work at, and that's when I felt it. And I was like, oh shit, what's going on? And then 3 days later, I ran with my buddy Rusty. We ran actually one of the trails here, and then it totally I was tripping all over the trail just because I couldn't lift my knee too much. And yeah, my hamstring was just biting at me a ton. So I was super worried, and I shut it down for about a week and a half. And I just tried to work through it. I went to go see a PT a few times. So I just worked through, and they said I could run through it. But yeah, that was definitely.
Was it hurting more than you put off?
Yeah, but I knew that once I got to a certain point, it was just soreness. I actually think when I had the breakthrough was that long run that Ben and I did. So we did a little training run of our segment, and I was able to make it through, 15, 16 miles. And it was just nagging, but I was able just to put some compression on it, and it was all good. So I think that actually helped me with just from a mental standpoint of just like kind of running through pain and soreness. So, I mean, again, no excuses, but it was kind of just an added.
Yeah, you definitely felt confident. I could see it after that training run. I was a little worried about it because we'd been talking, for a few weeks about that injury and riding the bike and massage and all that. And then after that, I could see it. You're like, I got it. Yeah,
for sure. So then, I mean, we got to the start point. So, I mean, we got our team together. We have a pretty strong team, obviously. I mean, it all kind of came together. At first, I was like, shit, who am I going to get? Who am I going to get to like just join me? I didn't know, like I reached out to some random people at first, which they were cool, like just people I know in the running community. And it just didn't feel right. But then it honestly, it like organically happened where you were available. JJ was all in. We had my uncle Mike and my aunt Charlene with their Sprinter van. My mom, she's always like really homey. And of course, my sister was there for our whole crew. So I think that was like a big boost for me. And just as we progressed through the actual journey of the 100 miles, like I don't think that I could have had a better team just laid out. So thank you guys for that as well.
The team was awesome.
Yeah.
It was actually fun being part of the team too.
Yeah, I know. I want to hear like what it was like in between, because there was like a ton of lag time. So I'm just curious, like it's a lot of downtime. So is it boring? Is it like what the hell does the crew do in between? Because I mean, I've chased different like runners, but not a crew that I've worked on, but just spectating. And that's just like a lot of work, just like going around and just all the downtime that you have as well. So thank you
There's
guys.
just like tons of anticipation, right? Like
Yeah.
even when I was talking to JJ, I was like, bro, we got to be there at like 7. And he's like off on the other side of the world, like checking out trails. And I'm like, nah, we're going to miss it. And so there's just like, you know, tons of anticipation to get everything organized. And then we're trying to like focus on what we think you might need. And then, you know, who knows like where we're at that point in the race. But, you know, then you might be sitting around for an hour and a half. So it's kind of an interesting experience. Like you got to go from chilling because you don't know when you're going to go to like, all right, now we're going.
Yeah.
It's like fire drill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like anticipation and a lot of assumptions, right? So
Yeah.
you're like assuming like, where's Ray at? How's he feeling? But really we have no clue. And it's a lot of like hurrying up and waiting, you know, like hurry up, like break everything down, get to the next spot, and then just like wait for however long, you know? And we would see like lights, you know, as it got dark, like lights in the mountain. We're like, here comes a runner, here comes a runner. And it's like, not you. And we're like, oh man, you know, and like, so, but it was, I thought we had a good crew. I mean, your mom, you know, always has a good setup. And then obviously your aunt and uncle, and then, you know, me, Bree, and Ben were, you know, ready for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool, man. Yeah, what the part that like the preparation, like I knew there was preparation, but you were like, once you get down to like, okay, shit, the race is tomorrow. So you got to make sure all your nutrition's packed, everything that you need's packed, amount of clothes because it was rain. So I had to pack like 4 different pairs of shoes. I had, you know, a few different changes of clothes, but I actually wish I would have had a jacket the whole time, which I'll get into that. And then, you know, just you guys laying out the plan of like certain checkpoints where I, you know, anticipate, so you guys can anticipate properly as well. So there's like those little dynamics that it's pretty interesting. I think moving forward, I mean, I'll probably focus more on 100K for my next one, but I would like to do a 100-miler again. So it's just good knowledge for in the future.
Mm-hmm. Any workouts like other than the one we did that stood out? You're like, God, I got that right. Or hey, like in the body of a week worth of work, you're like, man, when I hit 10K or 12K running in 1 week, I felt like that was really good prep for this. Any of that?
Yeah, so I started focusing like a lot more on vert, and I think I did a jump too quick. So I was usually like comfortable at like 3,000 to 4,000. I felt like my legs could get strong, but I took like a major jump to like 8,000. So I like went from 4,000 to 8,000 pretty quick. And I think that might have done it for my like hamstring and glute. I wish I would have scaled back, or I would have started my vert earlier and just had a steady progression. So that's what I'll kind of focus on in the future. But for actually workouts, I ran a lot from the Skunk Hollow to Magnolia and back. So that's about a 22-mile trek. So I love that trail. I want to actually take you guys out to that trail to actually run it. It's super beautiful along the American River. But I just think the terrain and a lot of runnable sections, you could really like do a lot of interval work there. So I felt I got like 3 solid runs there. And then once I knew I was kind of coming out of my injury when it was like slightly sore, but not, I did have a solid workout there. That was like, okay, I could run this. And then I actually did a slightly up-tempo track workout before, about a week before. And I only did like 4 800s, but I did them at like a 240-ish pace, something like that, 245, 248 pace. And then that was just like, okay, cool. Like I could still turn over my legs a little bit if I need to, even though I realized I didn't really need leg turnover. But I think it's just more of a mental piece, knowing that your legs could turn over a bit. So
Right. So what was it? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ben. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, what was the day before the race like with you going into that morning, and what did that really look like for you and feel like?
So I didn't get much sleep, and I don't usually. I mean, I try, but it never really affected me. So essentially, I got like 3 hours of sleep the night before, and then I was up for like 24 hours. So, but I don't feel that it affected my performance at all. But I ate a super good meal. We had like a good pasta dinner that, you know, we had family over. We cooked that, so that was solid. I was staying super hydrated throughout the whole week. I was like adding a lot of beats to my morning shakes and things like that. So just all like the mental stuff that like the nutrients are good, but also that I think that goes into the mentally, just like eating well and then just having a good meal. Know you're having a quality meal before a race. So, and just making sure that I had everything I needed, which I think I did, but at some points I left it off. So,
is there anything that you would have done differently in the preparation? Like the logistical preparations, like for next time?
I think everything was available. Maybe taking notes of like what I'd prefer to have, like at each section of the race, like writing it down. Like I had a little baggie with nutrition, but there's like little things that like you forget, like a specific light or a specific jacket or like just like little weird things like that. So I just have to like recap it and kind of go like that. So.
What did race morning feel like, or what did that look like going into the start of the race and then like the first couple hours of the race for you?
Yeah. Good question. So we'll just start jumping in the race. Yeah. So I was there at race morning super early. My mom took me out there. Just if you've been to an ultra like bright and early, you start before the sun comes up. So I was just at the start line with the people and you're just kind of quiet. Everybody's anticipating and then boom, they set you off. So we go and we hop on the the Pony Express Trail. And it's pretty technical. Like it's a single track and there's a lot of rocks as you head up towards Auburn. And my eyesight isn't very good like at night because I wear glasses and contacts and all that good stuff. But during the day, it's fine. But at night, it's shit. So I had to make a decision, like, do I wear my contacts or not? And I know when I run long distances, I can't run with my contacts. So I just decided not to wear them. So, dude, I was like tripped like 4 times at the beginning of the race. Like literally fell. My wrist is still a little screwed up because of it. But yeah, so I tripped a few times. Just my eyesight was weird. But so I decided just to kind of settle in. And there was a dude named Drake who actually kind of set the pace for us. So we just kind of followed him for like until probably 6 a.m. until like the sun came out. And then the kind of pack broke up a bit. So that was good for future, just to kind of, run with who you know, run with people that you trust. So that was cool. As we started climbing into Auburn, you get to an area called Cardiac, it's a big long hill. I mean, it's only about less than a mile long, but I mean, it's a pretty big climb. And my hamstring and my glute, and then I had like a weird inner groin area that just started to like pinch at me. And I was like, oh shit, what's going on? But I think like my muscles were just acclimating. So once I got to the first checkpoint with the crew, that was at mile 18. And then it just started to dump rain. But I started with a rain jacket, and then I decided to leave my rain jacket. I was like, I'm too warm. I don't need this. And I thought it would be too much weight. So then that's the mistake I made. I left off my jacket at the first aid station. And then from there, I picked up my first pacer. So I picked up Bree, and then that was from Auburn Overlook Park. So everything pretty much went smooth to there. But then we go into Auburn. So we go on Western States Trail up to Cool. So you pretty much drop down in the canyon area. You go on the Western States Trail. You pass some cool bridges and stuff. So me and my sister were I was still super high spirits. We were like taking photos in this one area where the bridges are. And then you just climb this. And then when I knew that the race was really getting real, you make a turn onto this single track trail, and it's called Training Hill. It's a really popular hill, part of the Western States Trail. And you climb out of the canyon. And I thought it was just like a little climb. So, and you climb all the way to the top of the canyon, like up to Cool, California. And this hill just never ended, dude. It was just like, that's what I was like, oh shit, okay, I'm in it right now. Like it's not stopping. So we went up to the top of that hill. We made it to Cool. We made it to the aid station. I still felt like I didn't need a jacket. And this is where I made the mistake. Because at this point, I wasn't going to see the crew for almost 30 miles. This is where I ended up leaving Bree and my mom, sister, and uncle. And then I wasn't going to see them for 30 miles. So that's where I made some mistakes for sure. But yeah, the next, go ahead.
How'd you feel about your pacing in that first 30 miles? Were you like, this feels a little dangerous, or it feels pretty good, or like, God, I'm bored. This is so slow. What was kind of the feeling?
Yeah, I felt like my pacing was good. Like I thought I was super on pace. I think I fell apart towards the end. Like even though I was strong enough to finish, I think I needed a little bit more volume in my training, and a little bit. I think some of like the faster up tempo stuff mixed in that I missed out during the time that I was training injured. I think that could have benefited me of just being able to keep a higher tempo. But I definitely think I needed a little bit more volume. For me, I was averaging like 60 miles a week, but I didn't have I was injured, so it was really only like 4 weeks of call it 5 weeks of 60 miles a week, where I wanted a longer. If I was going to be in that zone, I wanted like at least probably 8 weeks, maybe even 12 weeks of averaging 60 miles a week.
But on the day, like you felt like you weren't getting pulled by the pack, like you felt like pretty in control the whole time.
Oh yeah. We were going cool. Like I never, like there was a section where I did like an 8:30 mile. I think that was my fastest mile. But then I was actually like a few 9:30s, 10-minute miles. And I was like, okay, perfect. Like my heart rate wasn't too high. Legs didn't feel too fatigued. So I was good. There was never a section where felt like I was overdoing it. And then I didn't even know where I was at in the race. So even at that point, there's a 54-mile race, and there was 2 people in front of me. So I thought they were part of the 100-mile race. So there was actually a point where I was like in second place and then first place for a second, but I didn't even know like I was there, even though that didn't matter in the end. But it was interesting. Like mentally, I thought I was like in fifth or sixth place at the race, so early in the race. So I thought I was behind the gun a bit.
So do you, it sounds like you're saying that you felt like you had enough in you, but you wish you would have been able to go faster at the end?
Yes, exactly. And I think everybody wishes that.
Yeah. Well, where did you run that 8-minute mile?
I ran that coming out of, on Pine, it starts to open up a bit, like just before you enter Auburn area. So it kind of opens up. I think coming out of Granite Bay, a little bit further out of Granite Bay, we'll call it like mile 10. So it just started to open up a bit. So, and a lot of people started to pick up the pace slightly there, but not too much.
Mm-hmm. So when you dropped down from Cool, your next kind of touch point with SAG or, support, was it's like 60 miles or?
Yeah, it was just about 60 miles. So that was like a super rough stretch just by myself. The rain just started dumping, and then it got super freaking cold, dude. It got like instantly got super cold. And all I had was a t-shirt and shorts, and I t-shirt and shorts, super wet shoes, socks. Everything was completely drenched for about 3 hours, probably, maybe 4 hours. I don't know. I forget the time. But yeah, dude. And the terrain was it was super muddy, like ridiculously muddy. And like the trails would turn into creeks. So we would actually be in puddles, like at least knee deep. So we were just walking through puddles in some areas. I had to go to the bathroom a couple times. So I pulled off and I went to the bathroom, and then I actually got passed by my first runner as I was going to the bathroom on the side. I have to get graphic, but on the side of the trail. And he was cool. He was actually the guy that ended up winning it. And he was like, "It's all good, man. Do you have a good race?" So it was pretty interesting. But yeah, dude. And then there was this grass area where the grass was like seriously up to my chest on a single track. And like, I didn't know, like at first I was like, is there snakes in there? And all this like bullshit started to go through my head, but then you just have to do it. So then I just kind of went through that area. And then once I went through and I knew that I was at Skunk Hollow, I heard JJ, he was just like, "Yeah, Ray," or something like that. And then I finally made it, and I was just like, thank God. But I wasn't defeated at all, like at all. Like even throughout the whole race, not to get ahead, like even my mindset and other, like my 100K when I did that for the first time, like I never think that I'm not gonna finish. So I think like that's one of my strengths is just like I'll never just like purely give up. Like, so
those like 30 miles by yourself can be super lonely, and like what are those things that you tell yourself, or what are those goals that you set during that dark moment that get you through those times?
I like curse at myself a lot, so I'll say, "Come on, motherfucker," like stuff like that. I mean, that just like stuff like that. Or sometimes I'll pump myself up and I'll say like, "Hey, you're Ray Avalos, motherfucker!" Like stuff. It's like weird stuff like that. I don't know. I just like, and I'll just think about weird stuff, just like I'm fighting. Like, that's how I try to get through those moments, and then it's almost like a sense of happiness. Like once like I peak a hill or I get out of like a shitty area, I'll just start like laughing about it. Like, oh my God, that fucking sucked. Like, that's how I kind of keep a humility about it, and just, but at the same time, like fighting through in that moment, like kind of like a don't give up attitude, just to do it. So.
Yeah, I definitely saw that in you during our section for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, once we got to Skunk Hollow, I felt that was like a definitely breaking point. It was tougher, but I was so glad that I was now with you guys and a crew pretty much actually the rest of the way. So that was cool. Quick little overview of the next section. So we went from mile 54 to Magnolia and back, 22 section with my uncle. So that was super, super good. The weather kind of broke up, but the trail was still pretty sloppy. So a lot of mud. We went out and back. That was started to get in the dark as we just got back. But that's a beautiful section. But that went pretty smoothly.
How did the dark when it started you lose sunlight? Did that affect you at all?
Yeah, mentally, I think it kind of just gets your morale down, but it never like defeated me. Like, I mean, but I think it just your energy level definitely goes down a bit. So I think that definitely affected me. And then I'm always just like kind of keen on like making what the terrains look like. So I'm constantly like looking down rather than just like observing what's in front of me. So that kind of sucked about it as well.
Yeah. So how was your eyesight at that point?
Pretty bad. Ben, I think I tripped a couple times with you, but nothing too bad.
Yeah. It was pretty dark.
Yeah, but what I like mentally going into it. So, I mean, yeah, that section with my Uncle Mike, that went pretty smooth. I mean, I would say the thing that affected me most there was just the sloppiness of the trail. But actually at Magnolia, which I'm going to do now moving forward, my body responded super well to it. Was the lady at the aid station, she had a Himalayan salt and just chopped up baked potatoes. And she put that in a baggie for me with a ton of salt. And that like boosted me for like, we'll call it almost 10 miles. I felt super good. On the way back, like we were running pretty well, Mike and I. And then we got to you, and then we got in the dark. And then mentally, I thought that's like visually, I thought I could run that section more than I did, but I wanted to hike most of the hills because I was pretty like feeling it. My legs were pretty fucking shot, dude. You were helping me up some of those hills. Yeah.
Is in that, going back to Mike for a second, in that section after, I mean, you basically got dumped on for what, 6 hours or something throughout the day. During that section, was there anything you would change, or do differently, like, or even knowing the terrain, like run a different shoe, maybe? Like some guys are like on the section we ran, if it wasn't muddy, you could almost not run a trail shoe.
Yeah.
But with the mud, you have to. And some of that trail, at least I know that you did with Mike, is pretty rocky, So like some guys want a little stiffer shoe, so you're not like feeling those rocks. So is there anything you change on the gear side of it?
Yeah, I think I've always liked like a lower profile shoe, so I run in like Ultra Superiors for people who are familiar, which is like a lower profile shoe, and like I could run a ton of miles in those, but definitely I would want a shoe with a little bit more stability, probably a little bit more, I would say just more stability. And that's something that it probably affected me a little bit, but probably an extra pair of shoes as well. Because like I said, I went through three shoes. Yeah. 3 pairs of shoes.
So coming into that section, I picked you up at 75 from like 60 to 75. That's like uncharted waters for you, right? Like going run 100K. So what's your mentality like pushing over 100K, and like, are you excited? Are you nervous? Like where you at?
So I had like a second wind there. I'd say I had a little section of a second wind. So I never felt like, oh shit, I still have like, another 35, 40 miles. Like once I got there, I knew I could do it, especially as I started running well. And then once I got to you, like I knew I had to finish, like no matter how bad I was hurting. But that was kind of the mentality. So I think once you get to a certain point, it's like I got to 70-ish miles. Like, okay, like, am I going to march in? Am I going to run in? I don't know, but I need to finish.
Yeah, because at that point in the race, I mean, we were still like in third place,
Yeah. And that was the thing so we were moving. We just started to do like some intervals, some jogging, and then hiking the hills. But I think that, originally I wanted to run that a little bit more, but when I got passed by those 2 guys, like mentally, I know you were helping me out. We thought they would fall back, but that really didn't happen too much. And they just had a little bit more experience. And when they went by me, I knew I wasn't going to be able to catch them. They went by us moving pretty good. And then they were still running a couple of those hills in front of us. So I was like, I felt a little defeated, but there was also a sense of acceptance. And it was like, okay, this is just your race. Like you're not fighting for the top 3 spots anymore, like which I was most of the race. But at that point, it was like more acceptance. It's like, okay, this is the goal. Sub 24 hours is the goal now. It's just like you got to stick to it.
And was that a hard switch for you, not only on the time side of things, but then the place side of things? I mean, when I've raced a lot in Ironmans and raced for world championships, and I mean, I can literally remember every time I'm passing the marathon or I get pulled in the bike and I watch this guy walk away and I'm just sitting there like, and there's this moment of kind of like, you either like, put your tail between your legs and go home, or you like man up. And, that's why I always set like A goals and B goals and C goals and D goals. And, me watching you, I could see you have a little bit of that defeat, but then I could also see like I can still go under 24. Yeah. And there was still that like flicker of fight, you know what I mean? That I saw at least, which was cool.
Yeah. I think I think it was just more of acceptance, and I was like so beat up at that point where I was like, that like you said, that was the furthest I've gone as well. So I was like, shit. I think there's a quick acceptance, because I think if I let myself go down like a rabbit hole of like defeat, then maybe I would not have finished, or maybe I wouldn't have broke 24 hours. Like I could have just settled for whatever. So I think that there was still hope to like just achieve the next goal that was available pretty much. So.
Well, we talked about it a lot. At least I tried to talk to you about it like before the race.
Yeah.
Of like, what do we want to get out of this? Like, what is your goals and everything like that? And I thought you did a good job of just being present and just saying like, hey, this is my first time. I'm going to do my best, and you said that in a lot of different ways. And I think for some people that doesn't resonate, that doesn't motivate, but for some people, that's like the best thing that you can do is just say, I'm going to do my best. And then when the time comes to pivot the goal or pivot my target, then I'll pivot it. And you did that a couple times throughout the race, and I think that worked really well for you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and thank you for laying that out too. I think like originally I went in with a pretty ambitious goal of trying to break 20 hours, which I think if all things aligned, I still think I could break that. Like not easily, but I think I have it in me to just break 20 hours, because I was actually on pace for that. but then you realize what really goes into breaking 20 hours. Like breaking 20 hours goes into, you got to still run most of the last sections of the race. Breaking 20 hours means you're at each aid station for no longer than 5 minutes, where sometimes, like there was a couple aid station stops where I was probably there 15, 20 minutes at a couple of them. And that's just like time being burned. So another one's just like clothes, the clothes factor, nutrition factor, weather factor. I mean, so there's a lot of little just tweaks that go into just shaving those times, because I don't think it's necessarily pace, because I think if we look at like the top 3, a lot of them are probably at similar paces to me as I was, but they were just making little tweaks a little bit more efficiently throughout the race, especially at, the aid stations and things like that.
Yeah, I think that the last few legs, if you can get to a point where you can still be running those consistently, I think that shaves off a ton. I mean, yeah, that would be pretty remarkable. Yeah, I could break that. Dude, what did the guy who got first, what did he get?
He went 1950, about 1950. Yeah, and he wasn't too and that just shows the big jump and just inefficiency is like he wasn't too far from me for 74 miles, because we went out to Magnolia out and back, and I could see him, and I was like, okay, he's still about a mile away from me, not too far. It was about 19 minutes at that first transition.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it was just that last 25% of the race where things just like, some people just know how to kick it in the gear and just get a little bit more efficient. So.
But he looked different than everybody else. Like when he came in and when he left each aid station, he looked spry. He looked energetic. He looked, like he hadn't ran 75 miles. Yeah. Whereas everyone else behind him looked, they looked human. They looked like they had run 75 miles or less. But so I don't know what his deal was, but he was good.
Yeah, he was super good.
Yeah, so, one little story that I just kind of think back to in our section was the first time I saw these eyes like in the darkness.
Oh yeah, dude, you scared the shit out of me, dude.
I'm like, oh, what is that thing? And I was like, because it was like standing up, and I was like, there's no way that's a deer.
What was it?
Like yelling at it, and I'm like, Ray, it might be a bear, might be a cougar, I don't know, just keep running. And I'm like flashing it with my headlamp, and then I had a second headlamp that I like put on the back of my head, because I was thinking like, if we're running still, maybe it sees the light. Yeah. I'm just like yelling, and I was just like, dude, if we get attacked by a mountain lion in the middle of the night, like this is crazy.
What was it?
I think it was a deer. I really do.
Deer.
Because then we ended up seeing like all these deer along the way. Like, and I was just like, oh, gosh. But it looked like he was moving super odd, like through the forest. And I've never really seen a deer move like that. So,
yeah. And everything was still pretty overgrown because, I mean, we got a lot of rain this season. So, yeah,
I'm so glad you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
It was sketch. I felt sketched out. And I spent a lot of time in the woods hunting, and I was sketched out.
I'm so glad you didn't tell me that. Mike came in when we were waiting for you to come back. Mike came in when you guys went to Magnolia, and he was like, we saw a huge mountain lion print.
I was with him, dude. We saw it. It was huge.
And I'm like, don't tell me that. I'm about to go out there in the dark.
Yeah, in the darkness. Yeah. Another like kind of crazy thing that I felt like happened to me, at least in that time I was running, is like there's a section where we cross a creek that Ray and I crossed when we did like a training run, but we dropped down into it, and it's like a river.
Yeah.
And like we were kind of like farting around, like trying to figure out.
We thought we were going to stay dry probably the rest of the run, right? I mean, mentally, I thought we were going to stay dry.
Yeah. And so we basically just had to make executive decisions. Like we're just trucking through it. Like that's what we had to do. And it was like past our knees, and then we had to basically run wet the rest of the time. And then at one point we're like crawling through bushes, like under trees that had come down, and just like the terrain was just set up to just like, it was not set up to go fast. Like most of it was just like us trying to almost navigate the right direction. And I felt like at certain points, like you were in front of me, and I was just like double checking like that we were going in the right direction, because I was worried that we'd get kicked off on some rabbit trail.
Yeah.
So it was interesting being like a pacer. I've never done something like that. And it was just like amazing to be like a part of the experience and like, feel like I was, aiding in like, checking on your food and your fluid and your mentality and finding little ways to motivate you. Like when I felt good about your running, because you were running good little sections. And then, we just had to hike certain other sections because it just wasn't reasonable to run. But
Yeah,
it was a cool experience being a part of the pace group, at least for me.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, and you were on it, dude, when it came to just my nutrition, and also the salts too. That was huge. So one thing, I think I overhydrated, and it's nothing like on you guys, but I was just like drinking throughout the whole day. So I think I was drinking a little too much because towards the end I was just having to pee like way too much.
A lot. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. But I think my nutrition was on point. I mean, I just learned I had to go to the bathroom a lot more. So I just need to plan for that a little bit. But I mean, it's really in a span of time that really doesn't affect you too much. So
because you were peeing a lot, like almost every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But what are you trying to do? You're trying to like pee once an hour or?
See, I don't know the magic science to that. All I just know is that I was peeing a ton and I wanted to stay hydrated. So I just think maybe I just don't need to drink as much.
And I think it would have, if it was hotter, and
yeah,
then I think that
for sure,
it would have been different. Everything changes with the conditions and the weather. I talked about your nutrition because I thought you hit a home run on that.
Yeah. So,
or at least you did pretty good.
Yeah, I was just trying to take in like probably like call it closer to 300 calories an hour is what I was like shooting for. And sometimes I would do a little bit more. I want to make sure that there was some carbohydrate in there. So I was doing that and I was eating pretty much all that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just based on just like prior experiences of just like marathoning and just long training runs and stuff like that. But then also just like watching how some of the pros do it. Mm-hmm. So I thought I'd just kind of, experiment on this. And I think it went well.
Well, it was interesting for me to see, right? Because if anyone knows Ray's mom, she's a good cook, absolutely, mm-hmm. but and a healthy cook, and she provided like lots of whole foods, mm-hmm. like chicken noodle soup and like sweet potato burritos with bacon and avocado and stuff like that. But then I was looking at some of the other people that were eating, and they were eating like junk food. They were eating like Snickers bars and Cheez-Its and potato chips and hot dogs and hamburgers. And then you also had gels and like some of like the processed, carbs and fats and stuff like that, like processed in like kind of gel form and stuff and goos. So like, what do you think your body responded to best?
Yeah. So like the goos that I use, I'm pretty familiar with those. So I knew my body could handle them. So that I knew I was good to go there. And I think they did help. But yeah, the whole foods helped as well. I stay away from any of the junk food. Like all I'll eat at an aid station is like potatoes, like peanut butter and jelly, like stuff like that is all I'll usually grab at an aid station. But yeah, I mean, my thing was I just wanted to make sure my digestion, because I didn't want to start having like a lot of people have like diarrhea stories, or they got a lot of like GI issues and just their stomach pains and stuff like that. So I just try to avoid that, not to get graphic, but my my digestion was just super good. So every time I went to the bathroom, I didn't have like any issues there. So that I think was just, I don't know if it was part of the whole food, but maybe the combination. I think I just kind of know my body and what processes well. Mm-hmm. But your body also processes differently, I guess, after a certain point in the race. But it worked out for me. So,
what was your mentality going into the last leg? I mean, JJ brought the like, I felt like we went to war and then JJ brought the party.
Yeah. So I knew that like we were good. That was actually a super fun section. I knew I just needed to get to JJ, and once you got me to JJ, I knew like we would finish it, and and it was no problem. But then my uncle got there and he's like, oh, you have to hit an 18-minute a mile pace to do it, which is super easy to do, to break 24 hours. And so mentally I was like, oh, fuck this, how much time do we have home? But I was still kind of flustered, even though I knew it was like, I had a ton of leash and it was super attainable. So we left. I think we spent 15 minutes there.
Yeah, tell me about that, because we were trying to figure it out before you got there, and we were like, and Mike was like, "You've got to get him there before 24. You got to get him there." And I'm like, "All right, like I can do that," you know. And we were kind of doing the math and everything like that. And then, you know, I was trying to, you know, it was interesting because, you know, Ben and I had talked a couple days before the race, and Ben had given me like kind of the shot between the eyes, like the good, the bad, and the ugly that can happen. So I was trying to figure out where you were at that point.
Yeah.
But I also wanted you to be proud at the end, you know, like I didn't want you to be like, shit, I should have gotten under 24. You know, so like when we told you that, like, this is what we can do, these are the goals, like, how did that make you feel internally?
No, I think that was another realization, and I think that helped. So I knew that 24 was attainable, but I knew I could get well under. It's just a matter of how much under I wanted to get.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought I gave pretty much all I had to what was available to get the time that I got, which was like, yeah.
Was it motivating, or was it frustrating to be like, you're trying to get?
No, it was frustrating because I wanted to definitely get the best time I could get. Like, of course I would have accepted, you know, 23:59 if I landed at 23:59, but the goal was I didn't want to be right at the barrier. I wanted to, you know, get under the barrier as much as I can, because I did set an ambitious goal at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was acceptance, and then that got me going. So we got going. I think right away I knew where I was at in the race. So I was like, hey, let's go intervals. And then you kind of just like set the stage from there, like just kind of coaching me through the intervals where just to get through. I knew that we needed to get out of the last trail section. So they pick you up at Browns Ravine Marina, and then you take the trail all the way out to Sophia Road. So it's about, you know, 2.5, almost 3 miles that you run on that section. It's kind of similar to the section that Ben and I ran, but it's definitely wider. And that section's right by my house. So I've run that section like literally hundreds of times, if not more than that. So yeah, it was really familiar. So I knew that. But then once I got to the runnable section, I think, that's where I go back and forth. I don't know if I could have pushed through like just running it all, or if we could have done like intervals of like 10 minutes and then like walking for 2 minutes, because we ended up settling into a run for 3, hike for 1, run for 3, hike for 1 till the end.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that, because like I didn't feel like that was on the table in our section. I just felt like
no, the terrain just didn't allow it at all.
Yeah, but that's cool. I didn't know that you guys set like that type of interval setup. That's interesting.
Yeah, we did that all the way to Beals Point.
Yeah,
and then once we got into like the hills of Beals Point, then we started just doing. Then we went back to just hiking the hills, running the flatter sections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting, right? Like I was trying to push you to your limit, but it was hard to understand where your limit was because I was picking you up in the last section, you know, and it's hard, you know, it's just, it's also something that is unimaginable. Like someone's I've been running with Ray, working out with Ray in different forms or fashion since we were 8 years old or 9 years old, you know, so I know him very well when it comes to fitness, but I didn't know this part of Ray. I never been with him when he had run 75 miles, you know, so it was hard.
Man.
It was hard for me to like gauge that. And I was kind of just like asking him questions without trying to be annoying. And you know, I don't know, maybe next time we'll do better, you know.
No, you guys did awesome, man. I couldn't ask for anything better from you guys. I think mentally for me, I would have liked to give more that last 25% of the race. So I need to learn that last 25% of the race, like what will make me run most of that section. That's the kind of the next goal, because I think I could. That's where I lost. We'll even call it 22 hours, but really that's probably where I lost. That's where I lost 20, because I thought 22 hours and the top 3 was attainable at that point, but I slowly just drifted away in that point. So that's a section, and that's a section where, like, reading me, like when you said, "Oh, could you go? I'll push you," but I just didn't. I couldn't shift gears.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Like, I mean, I've worked with athletes for a long time, like very intimately, and I thought you were on the edge most of the time. Even the sections that we were hiking fast, I felt like you were on the edge. So I was not comfortable with pushing where you were at.
Yeah.
And that's just where we're at. So maybe that's just a comment on fitness. I mean, if you're not injured, dude, and maybe you lose 5-10 pounds, because we're training differently or whatever it is, like maybe that's what allows you to run that. I don't know, but mentally and physically watching you run, I don't think there were things that we could have run faster or longer in those sections.
Yeah, I agree.
Without sacrificing everything else.
Yeah, I was satisfied just given like the effort, giving like you guys did A+++ job, but even on my effort, like I gave all I could handle for my fitness level, and just like with a little bit of nicks going on with my my glute and hamstring area. So
that's a bad deal. That was a bad deal.
Yeah. So I just think like I was up against the wall, but I was never like, giving myself like speed. You're not going fast because of your hamstring or glute. Like that during the race, like that was never an excuse in my mind, but it was more of like just pure fitness standpoint. And that's where I think one longer sustainable just elevation gain, I think that's what will really help me. So I think I just need to just get more trail legs pretty much for those longer distances. So not, shorter, but longer, just longer to endure. And then just longer intervals as well. I think that will help me on the trail. So a lot of interval trail running.
So going back to that end stage, once you guys were done with the Beals kind of rolling into Granite Bay, I run that section a lot. It's actually pretty hard to run.
Yeah.
And it's washed out from all the rain and stuff. Like once you got there, you're kind of in like this last like 5-10K. So like what would that look like? I know we caught like the guy ahead of us because he got lost, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Sprint finish.
I think that guy's name is Drake. He's cool. And that was the guy who actually led us into the morning. But yeah, so that was interesting to see him. But yeah, that was cool. I knew that I was just looking at my watch, and I knew we had like a ton of bank time. So I was like, okay, 24 hours, we had it. So it was more of like a party in a sense, but I think I could have pushed myself a little bit more.
Well, I don't know. I was trying to push you.
Yeah, I know. I want, like, mentally, I wanted to push myself.
And I looked at you, and you didn't have it. Like you were like going as fast as you could.
Yeah.
And you were also, I think you were frustrated because it was like the high grass.
Oh, I remember that.
And you were just like you were kind of done.
Yeah.
Like I felt like that part went too long. It was like we're almost there, but like not quite, and it was kind of like if it was like that part was cut in half, then maybe you would have gone a little bit faster, but it was just kind of it felt like you were frustrated with that part right there and just wanted to be done.
Yeah, we came out of like the wide trail, like which was like a super like runnable trail that we were on. But then you get back to like the last, well, it's supposed to be about 1.5 miles, but it felt like forever. And yeah, it was single track, tall grass again. So it just gave me flashbacks to the shittiest part of the race, was like going through that tall grass, and it was super wet. And yeah, so even though I was almost there, I did get like a little frustrated, and I was like, dude, when is it going to end? Are we almost there? Are we on the right route? Like, and I was just like, I was just so antsy to get there. But then we did see the flags. We did get there. We popped out, and that dude Drake was like, I guess he got off course a bit. So he went sprinting by, and I was like, how the fuck could he sprint like that? Like he literally sprinted by me. And then, yeah, he ended up finishing super strong. So kudos to him. I wish I had his legs at the end of the race like that.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I was standing there, and just like a little sidebar, after we got done, I drove home, took a shower, ate like 2 pieces of pizza, went to bed for an hour, and then I was like set my alarm to get up, and everybody thought it was like 4:30 or whatever. And for whatever reason in my brain, I thought we were ending at Beals. So I'm like, I got time, right?
Yeah.
And I pull into Beals. I'm like, where is everybody? There's like no flags, no music, no nothing. I'm like, oh shit, we're in the wrong place. And I'm trying to text everybody. Nobody's responding.
Sure.
And then I remember like JJ was like, oh no, it's close to this like boat washing place or something. So I'm like, oh my God, it's probably close. It's Granite Beach.
Yeah.
And so I'm hammering down Folsom Boulevard, like doing 85 because I'm worried I'm going to miss you. And like pull past the security, like just kind of give him one of these and like get in. And then here I get out, and then like not 5 minutes later, here you are in this like sprint finish with this guy. I'm like, what just happened? It was so crazy.
Nice. So you got there literally right before I finished, probably.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was interesting to me too, right? Because the experience for me was amazing. Like it was honestly something that I'll never forget, to be able to share this experience with you. And I was like super proud of you, and I was like in amazement. And we're going through, it's like something I've never done before. I'm running in the middle of the night, with one of my best friends, and then we get to the finish line, and it's just like, all right, see you guys later.
Yeah.
We're going home. And it was like, there was like no, like I wanted to like celebrate and like party for like a half a day. And it was just like this most amazing experience. And then it was just like, all right, see you later. Everyone gets in their cars, goes home.
It was like 5 a.m. That's why I'll finish like 3 or 4 hours faster. So then we get like 3 or 4 hours of party before the sun comes up.
That's so funny, dude, because that's how my brain always works. But it's like then you go faster, and then you're just so much more wrecked, and you're just like, oh no, I'm going to bed.
Yeah. So it was interesting though. I mean, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I broke 24 hours. You get that cool special buckle. So that's actually right here. So people can see it. But yeah, it's pretty legit. They have like the Folsom stuff. I have sub 24 hours. So it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then I'll probably do 100-miler again. I mean, super ambitious goals, but I'm just going to focus on 100Ks right now, 50Ks and 100Ks. I'll probably run like one solid 100K a year just to get my name in the hat for Western States. And that's like, ideally, that would be the next 100-miler I'd want to do. And
I think we can do a better job, our crew, and I want to do it. Like, I want to do it again.
Yeah.
Crewing.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I gotta rack up some lottery tickets for Western States, but I think that's probably the next 100 I would want to run if I do tackle this distance again. And I'll just focus like on 100Ks, just because I think I could get really strong at that distance. I know what it takes. I know that I can endure that amount. The next one I registered for Canyons 2025. So that's in April. It's a pretty big one in Auburn. So I'll run some races in between there as tune-ups, but hopefully as long as I stay healthy, that's the next goal. And, I'll probably set a pretty ambitious goal there. Nothing yet, but I'd like to run, definitely sub 12 hours, but even 11 hours if I could get my fitness right. And, like you said, lose a few pounds, just get the training where it needs to be, because I do think I am capable of, running some pretty decent times at some of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pounds comment was not a comment that you're over fat.
Oh no! I was actually felt solid. I'm like race day. I was like 159. Which was solid. I mean, my fastest when I'm running fast, I'm probably like 152, like when I was in my Boston Marathon days. But it's really just like if you would have not had an injury, you probably would have got a couple more good solid weeks, and you probably would have knocked off 2 or 3 more pounds. Just as you're naturally, right? You're training and
just lean out, and that plus the volume ability of training, like just gives you that extra, just little, piece that you might need. So
yeah. And they're just figuring out like how not to get injured. Because I don't think it was a different injury than I've never experienced an injury like this. So it's just like knowing that injury could happen and how to prevent it, just some of the extra strength training, balancing exercises, working a lot of hamstring glute, which I never really focused on before. Like I would do like, squat guy and stuff like that, but there's more of like the mobility type stuff that really goes into that. It should be like part of your daily regimen. So
totally. Well,
Ray, you got any races? You're gonna do 100-miler or 100K?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Running?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think that's in the cards for me. I like to run, I really do, but that's just so long.
That's what my sister said. I mean, my sister's a super good athlete runner, but she said that like ultra stuff is just like not on the cards for her.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, it's interesting racing Ironman. It feels different because you have 3 different sports, and so it's like really like an hour swim, 5-hour bike ride, and then like 3.5, 4-hour marathon. It feels short, even though it adds up to like 10 hours or whatever. But I rode my bike for like 250 miles, and it was by like 150. I'm just like, get me off this thing. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. And the same is for running. Like I've run 30 miles straight, and I'm just like, not for me, but I'll help out Ray for sure.
Yeah. Well, that'd be good. Yeah, I think, it'll be cool to do one of these. I don't know when, but hopefully by the time I want to definitely do it in my earlier 40s, because I'm 40 now. So hopefully that time will come in the next couple of years. So cool.
You'll get it. Yeah, you'll get it.
Nice, guys. Any final thoughts? I think we're good, but
no, that was good.
No, I'm good. Congrats, buddy. We're proud of you.
Yeah, love you guys, and thanks for people that are listening. So,
yeah.
Peace.